Hello, everybody. I am Jarrett Ross, the Genie Vlogger, and welcome to another Genie Vlogger live stream. Hope everybody's doing well today. Starting very late, I know. Usually I start around about 50 minutes before right now. But it's been kind of a weird day, kind of a weird couple of days, to be completely honest. And so I completely didn't even think about the fact it was Friday until 20 minutes ago, maybe. And I was like, wait a second, it's Friday. I need to be streaming right now. So I hope everyone's doing well. Today's stream, I know I have it titled that we're discussing genealogy and DNA test updates. And I've already seen someone reference one of the things I wanted to talk about, which, I don't know if it's because we're starting late, but we definitely, we're starting a little bit slower with a smaller crowd than usual around this time. But yeah, we'll do the hellos. But yeah, what Bearvar was saying, real shame what's happening with MyHeritage. I think at this point, most everyone kind of knows what's going on, but we'll talk a little bit about it. And then I don't know if there's any other major updates we'll talk about, but if there's any questions, obviously, as usual, ask away. And if you can do any super stickers or super chats, I always guarantee I'll answer those, but as well, they help me out a whole lot. And being able to continue to do this genealogy on YouTube stuff. So Anna Tommaso, hello from Rochester. Hello, Anna. Always good to see you. Marshall Hurley, hello. And I saw that you posted from Panther, West Virginia. So very cool to have you. Thank you. Julia Joyce, hello from Winchester, England. Hello, Julia. I feel like I'm trying to remember where you're usually coming from, but I know it's not usually Winchester. So I'm not sure if Winchester's a more specific area or if you're on vacation, but let us know. And John Tyner, hello from Wicklow, Ireland. Hello, John. Good to see you as always, one of our WikiTree representatives. Although I think we've got a lot of WikiTreeers in our crowd usually. And of course, Bearvar, hi, good evening. And yeah, we'll talk about what's going on with MyHeritage. Rob, evening from Kent, UK. Well, good to see you, Rob. And I don't know how to say another. Einmeer, Einmeer Nederlander. Goedenavond, Venachronigin. Niek, goedenavond. Ik hoop dat alles goed met jou. Stig, our Scandinavian representation. Hello and good evening from Oslo, Norway. Hello, Stig. Always good to see you. And hello, Mom. Good to see you from North Carolina. And enabled, disabled. Wait, what's happening with MyHeritage? Well, it's going to be pretty big. It's going to be a big thing, and it sounds like it might be permanent. But it'll be, yeah. It's some. We'll talk about it once we get through the hellos and all of that. But it's a big change in things to the point that I'm currently editing my best DNA test video. And I have to go and add a little thing in because it changes the entire ranking I have for or not necessarily the entire ranking, but it changes the points that MyHeritage gets in that because of that. Gina, the video editor girl 2K11. Hello, I like your family history. Well, thank you very much, Gina. I appreciate that. I certainly think I have a very interesting family history. Lots of interesting family members. Oh, my dog's scratching below me. Amelia Cavaro, hey from Cambridge, Massachusetts. Hello, Amelia. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Because I'd say Cavaro, but I don't know. I'm not necessarily known for my pronunciations. At least maybe not pronouncing things properly. I might be known for pronouncing things improperly a lot. And Gina, the video editor girl coming out from Cairo, Egypt. Very cool. I don't know if we've had any Egyptians join the stream before. So we usually get a pretty good world representation, but you might be the first one, at least the first one from Egypt who's said something. And Martin Prajaz. Okay, yeah, Martin Prajazka. I hope I got that right, Martin. Greetings from Prague, Czechia. Good to have you. I think you might be the first. No, we've had some others from Czechia before, but yeah, not many. Julia Joyce, having a stay over with family in Winchester, used to be the capital of England. Very cool. Ein anderer Nederlander. Andra. Ein Andra. I don't know. I'm learning. I think I'm getting better. The super annoying Ancestry DNA matches page is still down. Oh, I didn't know that. I think I was on there yesterday, but I haven't really done much of anything today in terms of genealogy stuff. Been dealing with a lot of stuff going on. And Marshall, I haven't heard anything about my heritage. Glad to know I'm going to find out. Yes. And then speaking about WikiTree, we are recently working on connecting PewDiePie's family tree to the tree and discovered he's a seventh cousin one times removed 3 different times. Okay, I was like, wait, 3 times? Okay, yeah. Seventh cousin one times removed in 3 different ways to you, I'm assuming. Yeah. Weeping Scorpion, our Faroe Islands representation. Gatvald, everybody. Did I pronounce that even close? Finally, I can catch a full stream again. Yeah, it's good to see you. I guess we haven't seen you a whole lot lately. And then Garrett, hello from Berlin. Hello, Garrett. Good to have you. Today's a wide representation, worldwide representation. And then Tina Kelsey, hi from Dorchester, Massachusetts. Hello, Tina. Thank you for joining. And then Marshall, I've spent quite a bit on my heritage. To be honest, I don't know any more than I did in the beginning. Yeah, it can take a while before you really start to catch on and figuring out exactly, how it's all connecting and how to do it. Genetic genealogy can be difficult. And then, of course, depending on what matches you get, you might not have the best match list to be able to easily discover things, and you've got to work harder. And then Julia says Ancestry UK matches are working. Okay. Interesting. And I guess we'll jump into some of the announcements. And of course, I didn't have it pulled up. So the big thing with MyHeritage is that they are ending the ability to do DNA transfers or DNA uploads. So they're officially called DNA uploads, they're officially called DNA transfers, but they're not doing it anymore. I'm trying to find, oh, that's right. There was no announcement. So there was no announcement about it, but I think, didn't Roberta Estes do something about that? Yeah. I can't find anything. Okay, well, I don't need to pull anything up to have on screen. You can just look at my face. But MyHeritage announced, they didn't announce, they've started to roll out the basically blocking of the ability to upload or transfer DNA results from other websites. So if you've tested it, Ancestry, 23andMe, Living DNA, if you've done whole genome, it honestly doesn't really matter as long as you can get into the proper file format to upload. That's ending for people. Now it hasn't rolled out for everybody. So if you go onto your MyHeritage account, you go to the DNA uploads and you go to see, some people it will say uploads are not available anymore. Other people, you're still going to be able to upload. So if you still have the ability to upload, do it while you can. So I don't know what they're going to do in terms of an official announcement, because I don't think they've actually officially announced anything. And as I've been talking, I've been kind of trying to search for something that says something about it. But there, unfortunately, really isn't much. Why can't I find anything about this? All right. We're gonna keep trying. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. Okay, so it wasn't Roberta Estes that wrote the article that I was thinking of. It was Leah Larkin. So now I need to actually share it with all of you. Yeah, so end of an era. Uploads in MyHeritage are ending, and that's going to be a big downside for them. Yeah, so this is what people are getting. So for some people, when you go to try to upload, that's what you're going to see. DNA uploads are no longer supported. And it hasn't rolled out for everybody. Like I said, like when I logged in earlier today in MyHeritage and I went and looked at mine, I actually just did a quick check to see, and I still have the ability to upload. But it's really unfortunate because for a long time, the way that everyone's been talking about the way to do DNA testing has largely been that, it's best to test in Ancestry or 23andMe, although 23andMe has kind of been pushed to the side for a while now with that, especially with everything recently. But that was kind of the thing of, you can test an Ancestry and then upload it into MyHeritage. But even more, if you had people that you found that were cousins that maybe only tested on one place, but you wanted to use some of the advanced tools available, you could also go onto MyHeritage and do that. And with MyHeritage, they have some very unique populations that have higher representation in their database. So like Brazilians have a very high and South Americans overall, honestly, have a very high representation in the MyHeritage database compared to the other databases like Ancestry. So for some people that might have cousins that went to South America, like I actually had a lot of South American matches because there were a lot of Jewish migrations to South America. And so that's huge, but if you can't use the advanced tools or if you can't get your DNA to upload it into MyHeritage, then that creates that price boundary for people, which for some people, it's not a big deal. MyHeritage DNA test can be pretty cheap, like $39 or something like that. Stop sharing that. Go back to there we go. $39 or whatever. So it's not terrible, but it's also something where not everyone can easily afford that without causing issues. A lot of people in the world living paycheck to paycheck. Just realized how orange I look with this. What should be I think it's supposed to be red, but it's coming in orange. And actually, it's the Enjoy Genie. So it should be red. It should be red, but for some reason it's orange. So funny enough, WikiTree shirt. Thank you, WikiTree. But yeah, so it's definitely some annoying things, or not annoying, but it's disappointing because now it's just going to be harder to get more people into MyHeritage's database. I've seen a lot of people kind of talking about what they think might be the reasoning for why that happened. It'd be nice if MyHeritage made an announcement, although I wouldn't be surprised if they were just like, let's just not even talk about it necessarily. I don't know if maybe I missed an announcement. I figured if there was one, I would have seen it. Let me see what everyone's saying in chat because I haven't seen it. Okay. Good evenings. It seems that for some people where it's blocked, it would still work if they upload the file as someone else, not themselves. Okay. I wonder how much actual difference it'll make. It will be significant, sure, but MyHeritage, at least in my experience, has the most aggressive marketing. Yeah, they definitely have gotten very aggressive with marketing in recent years. 23andMe used to be pretty hardcore with it. Honestly, you go onto YouTube and you watch DNA testing videos from throughout the years from 10, I'd say, from 10 years ago to maybe about 7 years ago or so, 23andMe kind of dominated that space. Whereas every time you saw someone on YouTube doing a DNA test, they were going through 23andMe. And then MyHeritage swooped in and 23andMe seemed to even kind of pull away from it. But MyHeritage swooped in and really took over that kind of marketing in a sense. So let's see, where am I at? Okay, Julia, thankfully I've tested all of my uncles and aunties and parents and uploaded to MyHeritage. Yeah, and that's the other thing too about them ending uploads, which is a major disappointment, is that if you have any relatives tested who pass away, then you're not going to be able to get them to test in this other, database. Now, I will say, with that said, one of the things that MyHeritage has announced, I think it's been a while now, so who knows when they're necessarily actually going to roll it out. But they announced that they're going to get into the artifact DNA testing space. So if you're not sure what artifact DNA testing is, it is literally testing DNA from a artifact, basically something that you know that your ancestor or deceased relative used, and so their DNA may be in that. So the big one that people always talk about are like stamps on envelopes, or if you have someone that has sealed envelopes, maybe they used a letter opener to cut one end. So basically the idea is that when they licked the stamp or sealed the envelope with their spit, that got the DNA trapped in there, and it's not going to be able to really get contaminated as much and all of that. So it makes it a high quality sample, or a possibility for a high quality sample. There are other things people test, like dentures, glasses, smoking pipes. I mean, literally think of anything that your ancestors might have used that you might inherit that might have their DNA in it. But you also have to consider all the other stuff of, did other people handle it? Could it be other people's DNA? And there's a whole thing with that. But basically, MyHeritage is rolling out that, or has announced that they're going to roll that out. They're working on it. So if, people want to get their deceased relatives' DNA into MyHeritage, they're going to have to wait for that artifact testing to roll out. And then that's that's what they're going to have to rely on. And that's probably going to be much more expensive because there's multiple steps to that. So with regular DNA testing, you swab for, 30 seconds, a minute on each side of your cheeks, or you spit a whole lot of spit in a tube. But for artifact testing, you actually have to send the items in, and then they have to try to extract the DNA, and then they measure it. And that's a whole cost unto itself. And then once they've done that process, then they will come back and say whether or not it's viable to go through the actual sequencing. So actually sequencing the DNA. So when we send our DNA tests in through Ancestry or MyHeritage's regular DNA test or whatever, that's what they're doing, is they're just going straight into sequencing. They don't have to extract the DNA in such a serious way. Like they still have to, they have a process of getting that DNA refined and all of that. But in terms of getting it from an artifact, that's a whole different level. So it basically, it's kind of like, dealing with crime scene DNA. They're getting DNA off of, weapons and all sorts of stuff from the crime scenes or whatever. Yeah. And so many chances of cross-contamination of modern DNA, especially if it's something that was handled a whole lot. If it's something where, let's say great grandma dies, a whole bunch of her stuff got, put into a bag that was then put into a box, and then it was just left there and no one's handled it in years, then that's your, then you just got to hope that, the conditions of wherever it was stored didn't cause issues with the DNA or mold or other things to get into it. Because it's not just human DNA, it's all sorts of types of DNA, insects, mice, So there's other things to consider with all of that as well. Okay. Wendy Kelly, what does aggressive marketing mean? So just, I mean, the way that I think of it, and maybe this wasn't necessarily the way that Weeping Scorpion was saying it, but I think of aggressive marketing as in just they're very proactive. So I guess aggressive marketing makes it kind of have a negative connotation. So if you want to give a positive connotative spin, then it's very proactive marketing. Basically, they're trying to be marketing in every single space they can. So, you see them on, marketing on TV commercials. You see them marketing on YouTube commercials. You see them marketing on all the different social media platforms. You see them doing a lot more conferences and things like that, having tables and having people going out and actively speaking. So the face of MyHeritage, in a sense, the chief genealogical officer, Daniel Horowitz, goes out and does a ton of stuff. They're also very proactive in terms of working with content creators. They have something that's called the MyHeritage Family and Friends thing, or I forgot, is it Family and Friends? Maybe I'm missing that up, but it's something like family, friends of MyHeritage or something like that. Basically, they just they just treat us well. Like when I was at Roots Tech this past year, I guess when was that? That was only 4 months ago or 3 months ago or 5 months ago. What month is it? It's May. I don't know what time it is, what day it is, what month it is. But yeah, so it's just them being very, very active with it. So when we did the MyHeritage dinner, they took us all out to Dave and Buster's, and there was this big buffet, and they had like a karaoke thing. We had our own room, and it was like, all sorts they gave us like these MyHeritage blankets and MyHeritage. Oh, I have it right here. So they gave us this. This doesn't even have anything to do necessarily with MyHeritage. They gave us like I don't know, just some sort of tracking. What are they? AirTag. That's what I was trying to think of. I think I have the blanket downstairs. I probably have a lot of. I'm trying to think if I have any swag up here. What do I have up here? Because they like, that's the thing. They give us like swag. They give us all this cool stuff. Okay, actually, I want to go see if I can find. I'm gonna go find some of the swag they give us. But yeah, let's see. MyHeritage. Is that all I can find right now? All right, so it's not a ton of stuff necessarily, but like this is one of the things, like some big, water bottle, big sturdy metal thing. And this one's more because I'm a genie curator, so big old duffel bag, But that's one of the things they do too, is they're very big on, getting swag to people, and then they're also very very active as well to make sure that anything that's going on or whatever, they kind of have their eyes on it. Like, in all honesty, they're probably gonna see this stream. Like, hi Daniel, hi MyHeritage team. Like, I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised if someone working for MyHeritage is in here right now watching live. My dogs are all like, "What the hell's going on? Why is he moving all this stuff? What is this stuff?" There, sniff it. You want to sniff it, Jack? You can check it out. So yeah. The way here's what I meant. Their ads were everywhere, and to some extent still are. Yeah. They've definitely. I mean, it's kind of they've shifted their marketing. So I mean, I've done a few things with them. I've done a few sponsored videos. The first sponsored video I did with them was one of the first, or not one of the first videos, but it was one of the videos that I thought would go way better than it actually did. That was my videos about the Jewish pirates of the Caribbean. Hey, what's up, Pup? And I thought that video was going to do super well, and it actually kind of did not so great. I even did the whole change the thumbnail, change the title a billion times. The other one I did was the recent Max Miller episode, not the most recent one I did on his World War II connections, which super interesting. If you haven't seen that, go check it out after the stream, obviously. But also, they sponsored the one before that where I identified his grandfather's biological parents, because Max's grandfather was adopted. So yeah. And then the other thing they did was they also had me do a sponsored. I don't know if it's a sponsored video, but it's basically a what do you call it? Video, an exclusive video. Like, it was basically like a minute-long video where I was talking about one of the things I solved in my family history that I used MyHeritage for. So some people may have seen that. I was actually I was surprised that they didn't use a lot, because it was part of this campaign where they got a bunch of other genealogy creators. I can't remember all of them who did it, but I was like one of like 4 or 5, and so it was like they had that going for a little bit. But yeah, glad to help. Yeah. Very cool. Blake is here. Found out I'm a 7th cousin of Adam Smith, the economist, recently. Very cool. I always feel like that's one of the fun things with genealogy, is finding those connections to famous people or historical people or whatever. Michelle, in New Zealand, Maori are in the beginnings of trying to create separate privacy policies so the police cannot test them for DNA. Interesting. Soft-hearted solutions. Hey, my friend. Well, hello. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Yeah. Thank you for the dog emoji, weeping scorpion. And thank you, PZ. I like the Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean episode. Yeah, I thought it was really good. I mean, that one was one that had been in the list of wanting to do it for a long time. It's based on the book The Jewish Pirates of the Caribbean by Edward Kritzler. But what my video is breaking down all of the issues with that book. And a large part of those are, one, really bad genealogy. So I prove how there's bad genealogy in that book. But two, bad citing of sources. And at some points, manipulating citations to fit the narrative even better. So it's also, I thought it was a great video in terms of the sense as well of like how to check sources and all of that. I can't get that right. Sorry. Yeah. So yeah, I thought it was a good video. Definitely worth checking out. And it was one of those videos that I thought was so good that I was like, why aren't people watching this? That I put it on my main channel page is like I think it's, if you're not subscribed, you go to my main channel page, that's the video that like starts playing. That was actually one of my first videos where I was trying out doing music and the diegetic sound and all that whole stuff. So I'm constantly trying to improve my content and all that stuff, but it's hard to know if I'm making it better or just making it worse or what, you know. It's not the easiest thing trying to do this YouTube thing. Yeah, MyHeritage updates for African Americans is a joke. They combined several West African countries and are calling it all Nigeria. Really? Wow, they're not like labeling it some more regional thing. I didn't realize that. They also have most African Americans coming back at 5% Portuguese with no other Euro ancestry. It's nuts. Interesting. Yeah, I wish they would release a white paper. That's a big issue with MyHeritage's DNA stuff, and I think it's something that I've it's probably been my biggest issue with MyHeritage's DNA results, is that they don't release a white paper with it. So whenever there are these issues and things with certain population groups, which for their admixtures, that's kind of been one of the things that's been a constant in their history. People not liking the admixture results. So yeah, I don't, it's if they released a white paper, at least we could see, where they, not quite as confident. So when you get these readings, like everyone getting 5% Portuguese if they're African American, then why is that? Can the white paper explain that? White papers can't always explain what's going on with the results necessarily, but at least when you have a basis of knowledge of where are they coming up with this, as well as what were their statistical analyses of these things, you kind of you get more nuance. So yeah. Blake is here. Kind of find it ironic I'm related to the father of capitalism, considering my views on capitalism. All right. Julia Joyce, off topic. I've been doing my tree and found out I'm related to the, and now you're going to leave us. You're going to leave us waiting. I don't know if you realized you didn't include who it was, Julia, but now I think I'm going to keep my eye out for that. So yeah. All right, let's see. I'm gonna jump ahead. Let's see. Okay, Albuquerque Bobcat. Robert from New Mexico here. Endogamy is real here due to few Spanish ancestors. My tree doesn't branch much. Interesting. Yeah, I'm not super familiar with New Mexican genealogy. I have a little bit of experience researching various families in New Mexico, but usually just like briefly in like very small pockets of time. I've never really focused on like extensive. So I'm not too surprised necessarily about the endogamy, but that's very interesting to hear. Very interesting to hear. The person that called me didn't even mean to call me. It was a pocket dial. All right. Okay. Let's see. Kalalama, hey Jarrett, new here, so I'm sorry if this is a dumb question. How can non-genealogists trust any shared trees on Ancestry or Family Search? Really cool findings, but I worry it's all hearsay. Yeah, no, not a dumb question at all. And this is actually something that most pro genealogists warn about or discuss when they're talking to beginners, because that's one of the easiest things to find is other trees that people have already built. And the way that I treat it is the way that I treat any family tree I find, whether it's on Ancestry, Family Search, Genie.com, WikiTree, GenieNet, a book published 10 years ago, a book published 200 years ago, a magazine, no matter where you find a family tree, it all depends on the sourcing. That's how you can tell. And that is a difficult way to figure it out sometimes, especially if you're beginning, because it can be hard to tell, what are things that are red flags. And that's something that you can learn over time. I know that there's a lot of genealogists I've seen that have done videos on this. Like I'm pretty sure Amy Cross did a video about this, which if anyone's not familiar with Amy Cross's YouTube channel, great channel to check out. One of the smaller genealogy YouTubers out there that's been starting to grow a lot. So hopefully a lot of you have probably heard about her. If you have, throw an emoji in the chat. Well, no, I guess maybe not a cross, because I was going to say her last name is Cross. But I think she did a video about that. So let's see. So Amy Cross Genealogy Hints is her channel. And yeah, I know there's been a lot of videos about it, really, but I'm pretty sure there was one at some point. Yeah, here we go. This is the video I was thinking of. So basically, it's kind of just talking about, when you're looking at trees, what are things that you can find that are wrong, that would tell you right off the bat. So here, I'm just going to jump back to this view. So one of the things that I always mention right in the beginning, stop ad, is when you look at someone's tree on Ancestry and you notice a lot of duplicate names, or even more if you notice a lot of duplicate records. So if you go on Ancestry tree and you look at one of the profiles and you see that this person has 4 1950 census records attached, well, look at those records and see, is it a lot of, are all those records being tied to this same person, or is it something more nuanced going on? Because often when you're seeing a lot of those duplications, whether it's in the children or the sourcing or things like that, that is where that can be a big red flag. The other thing to do is when you just look at the profiles, look at the sources they've attached. If they don't have any sources attached to a profile, then you can't really trust it that much, and you're going to have to do research. If they do have sources attached, then you can look through those and verify them. I think this is one of the places that sets the WikiTree website apart from all the other trees, in that the way that they write the profiles, the way they source the profiles, and the way they have comments from the researchers on those profiles makes it so you get the full nuance of everything. And I actually have a great one to show. I can't talk about necessarily why I was researching this, but this is something that I was researching. Let's see. So this was a profile, Marywood Pine, and basically what I had found in my research originally was that she was the daughter of this Elnathan Wood and I think it was Mary Billington. Yeah, Mary Billington. And basically that line traced up to a famous family that was on the Mayflower. And so in trying to verify that connection, I found issues with Marywood Pine. And WikiTree was the only tree I found that not only had it correct in not having her connected to Elnathan, which I will say I've updated it on Genie, so man, you guys aren't the only ones now on WikiTree. Genie does still have some good, has a lot of good ways of doing these types of things. It's just with Genie, it's not as constant that you'll find that. WikiTree, I think you find these types of nuanced information with the sourcing a lot more, because it's a lot harder to add things in WikiTree without having that. But in this, it talks the research notes and why they removed her from the tree. And I didn't just trust this either. Like, I found this and I went and I looked up Elnathan's will. I looked up the information I could find on the family, and basically everything they said I completely agreed with. Yes, Elnathan has a daughter named Mary, but in his will, he literally calls her Mary Conant. There was a marriage between Mary Wood and that's what it's supposed to say here. There's a Massachusetts marriage between Mary Wood and I think it was Thomas Conant. So we know that they actually were married, and we know that that was the right Mary. So it's unlikely he had another daughter named Mary. And then even more, Elnathan and his entire family were in Massachusetts the whole time, whereas Mary Wood was born in Huntington, Long Island, New York, and lived her life, as far as we could tell, completely away from Massachusetts. So I think this is actually honestly a great question that you're asking, because any genealogist at any level, whenever they find a family tree online, they need to verify it. And I know I've done a lot of streams also talking about building family trees using other things online, which is often called the quick and dirty method, which is something usually used specifically for DNA testing or things where you're trying to figure out connections real quickly. And it's not, I don't know how to word it best necessarily, but there's a few reasons why you might want to do quick and dirty building, but it's not the most recommended. And even when you do it, it's best to do it in a way that you're still slightly verifying. You want to check all the stuff. So yeah. All right, where am I? I was talking for a while without. Okay. Wow, yeah, things have really picked up. I should mention again, this is actually a good time to mention that we've got a lot of people here. Any questions in the chat, I definitely try to answer them, but I can't guarantee I'll answer all of them because, like right now, sometimes chat kind of goes a little faster. But I do guarantee if you do a super chat or super sticker, whatever it's called, with a question, I guarantee I'll answer those. But on top of that, if anyone does that, it's very appreciated because it helps me in continuing being able to make YouTube content. Okay, let's see. I was talking for a while with not a lot. So, okay, this from Albuquerque Bobcat, small communities, cousins moving with cousins to new communities. Okay, so it's like small community, basically a founder population, as we would call it in endogamy. And then that founder population had descendants moving to new areas, but the other people moving to those same areas were same descendants from that same founder population, which in a sense is kind of like what happened with a lot of the Louisiana Acadians, is that they're coming from they're like a founder population themselves, coming down from Canada, being kicked out of Canada, but then they're coming from an endogamous population as well. And so it's like this, yeah. So I guess within even those smaller communities, the newer small communities, it expands. Okay, let's see. Jose Lopez, am I late? Also thought about how my past lineage worldwide would have a great positive effect. Not too late. I started this super late, but I guess, yeah, I mean, we've been going for 40 minutes or so, just a little under. Congrats on getting your maternal uncle to do Big Y. That's awesome. All right. Marshall, I've been looking for my biological father, but I haven't gotten anywhere. I'm 47, so it worries me I won't find out. I don't know if you've thought about approaching search angels, but I would suggest doing that if you haven't yet. There's a lot of different search angel groups you can approach. The group that I was a part of and technically still am is DNA or searchangels.org, excuse me. But there's a group called DNA Angels. You can also, if you're on Facebook, check out the group. Oh gosh, why can't I think of it now? Oh, it's it's right on the tip of my tongue. What is it called? It's CC Moore's group. Oh my gosh, I can't think of what it's called. If someone knows what I'm talking about, post it in the chat. DNA Detectives. There we go. That's what it's called. DNA Detectives. Find the DNA Detectives group and join. There we go. Thank you, John. Thank you, John Tyner. All right. Yeah, Blake, because you got to have so many famous relatives. Yeah, I mean, if you're able to do a decent family tree, in the sense of, like, I guess decent's not a good word for this. If you're able to build out a fairly expansive tree and find a lot of connections, especially into these world family trees, whether it's Genie, WikiTree, or Family Search, you're going to find tons and tons of relatives. And then depending on the population group you're coming from and certain relations, you might find a ton, So, yeah, interesting that so many of you are descendants of noble families like that. My closest would be that I am a descendant of the German von Gabel family. One daughter married into the House of Schleswig-Holstein, Sonderburg, Augustenborg, and through them I have some royal cousins, mainly Philippe the Fourth. Is that right? Yeah, that's fourth of Spain, and Georg Friedrich, the current pretender to the German throne. Both of them 11 cousins, so it's not really close relations at all. Sorry for the TED Talk. Well, we all got to experience that. Thank you, Big Scorpion. That is interesting, very interesting. I think I've talked about it a whole bunch, but my most recent known royal ancestor is Juan Alonso Pimentel, the 5th Duke of Benevente. So... yeah. Oh, I just saw this. I'm glad to help. Glad to help. And I'm guessing those crosses are for Amy Cross. Okay. Let's see. How far ahead am I? Oh, Julia, thank you so much for the £1.99. I appreciate that a whole lot. Very much appreciate that. It really does help every little bit. All right, let's see where we're at. Okay, I'm not too far back. Yeah, endogamy super difficult. Very, very difficult. And even more, every single endogamous population, their DNA results are slightly different. And so you have to, if you're doing a Jewish DNA case and then you do a Creole DNA case, there's similar techniques, but you have to approach them differently. Especially because with endogamy, it varies in a lot of different ways. So endogamy encompasses both pedigree collapse, basically cousins marrying cousins, but it also encompasses double relation. So singular families having a lot of people marrying between each other. So the perfect double relation is, let's say that you have a girl, she meets a guy, they get married, have a kid. But then the girl has a sister, the guy has a brother, and the sister, the brother, they meet, they fall in love, they have kids, and so now those kids from each couple are first cousins to each other in two ways, because their moms are sisters and their dads are brothers. So yeah, we got Next Lifetime here. Hey, good to see you. Good to see you. Okay, yeah, if you haven't tried Search Angels, definitely do that. And thank you, John and Retta, for shouting out the DNA Detectives. It definitely was it was one of those things that was like, what is that? I know it's D&D, but what, it's not Dungeons and Dragons. Yeah. Nancy, if you have lineage back in America, you related to tons of famous people, you get pages and pages at BYU. Yeah, once you kind of get back there, I always it's not exactly an endogamous population, but once you get back to colonial American families, there almost is kind of it's almost like the beginnings of endogamy, and then it's just this constant flow of new immigration, so the endogamy kind of fizzles out. But like for the first couple hundred years, while there were a lot of people coming over, it was limited in certain ways, so that you did have a lot of that, where it's like anyone that has American colonial ancestry, if you look at their family trees, like if you compare like two people that have American colonial ancestry and look at their trees, it's likely that you're probably going to find at least one ancestor couple, or at least one ancestor in common, maybe back in the 1600s. But it's super, super common. Like that family that I found, that Mr. Beat and Matt Baker of Useful Charts descend from, the Whitcomb family. There's a whole bunch of other people that descend from the Whitcombs as well. So it's not uncommon for that to happen. But the thing is that unlike other endogamous populations, it's just this very small sort of pocket of time. And so the endogamy is very, very minimal. And for the DNA, it basically doesn't affect it. It's more of kind of just genealogically, it makes things kind of difficult sometimes. But yeah, I'm getting all rambly today. All right, I'm going to fast forward a bit. Let's see. Yeah, Julia. Previous message, doing my tree. I'm related to the Bathory family from Romania. Why DNA corroborates this. Elizabeth Bathory was also known as Countess Dracula. Whoa, that is cool. So you're a Dracula descendant. That's cool. That's cool. That's an interesting connection. And with the Y DNA to corroborate as well. I'm guessing that must be a pretty well built out family tree for the Bathory or Bothorys. I'm not sure how to properly pronounce that. But yeah, with the Y-DNA, I'm guessing you're probably getting a lot of people where they know for sure they've got that lineage up that paternal line, which means I guess that's a lot of Bathories. Yeah, that's cool. All right, let's see. Maven, the Sweden team in WikiTree is getting featured soon. I put in that we will check connections for PewDiePie, and at least one person was a relative. Cool. Let's see, how far back am I? Not too far back. Okay. Next lifetime, I don't necessarily have endogamy, I think, but my great-grandparents on my grandma's side were second cousins 1 times removed. Yeah, that's not really endogamy. That's pedigree collapse, which is part of endogamy, but it's not honestly that intense of a pedigree collapse either. Like second cousin once removed. I mean, for me, I would find that weird, I think, but especially back in time, like great grandparents, we're talking early 1900s, maybe late 1800s. And so, not super uncommon to be marrying cousins, and especially a second cousin once removed. So yeah, definitely. The thing about endogamy, it's just happening over and over and over for many, many, many generations, and not necessarily pedigree collapse happening over and over and over itself, but also that double relations. So yeah. Nancy, my favorite comment when people find out I'm a genealogist, I can go all the way back to Adam and Eve. I smile and nod, and an ancestry genealogist taught me that. Yeah. There's only a few things that I'll correct people on when they say, things that are like, no, that's wrong. That's definitely one that I don't, because it's just like, oh, okay, yeah, cool. Anyone that does the, oh, well, I trace back to this one, unless it's like a friend that I, comfortable saying that. But one that I will say to people, and actually this one happened somewhat recently. I went to this event, and this guy, I started talking to a guy and was telling him about, oh yeah, I do genealogy. He's like, oh yeah, my family changed the name at Ellis Island, blah, blah. And I was like, they didn't, that's a myth. And he was like, wait, yes, they did. And I was like, no, it's a myth. And I explained it. And he was like, well, well, then when did they change it? And it's like, I mean, they could have decided to change it at Ellis Island, but it's, it's not that Ellis Island chose it for them, which is what a lot of people think. But I imagine most of us in here already know that is not the case. Ellis Island, they did not change people's names. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to fast forward a bit because I think I'm slowing down. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Bram Stoker's brother married into my Bruce family. Very cool. So we got a lot of those connections today. Okay. Next lifetime. Did you guys talk about MyHeritage uploads and alleged new Ancestry regions soon? We did talk about MyHeritage uploads, but we did not talk about any alleged new Ancestry regions. I honestly hadn't heard about that. Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't heard anything about that. Let's see in the past week. Okay, so this must be what you're talking about. So, new 2025 update ethnicity features, nesting in decimal percentages. Oh, whoops, I'm wrong. Close that. There we go. Make that bigger. There'll be nesting. So they're going to basically do macro regions. Okay, that is. Oh, interesting. So then, okay. So interesting. So I guess they're doing macro regions based on geography or population. Interesting. Oh, what is it doing? I don't need that. Okay. Yeah, I actually hadn't really heard about that. But then again, as cool as it is, I guess until we see it, that there'll be a question of how genealogically useful is it going to be? Because I feel like some of the stuff that they roll out with a lot of this is, in terms of genealogy, it's just a lot of fluff. It's not genealogically useful as much. Um, obviously the by parent thing was very genealogically useful. Still has its issues, but at least it can be. Yeah. Okay. So basically what I just pulled up. So yeah, it looks like they're going to split Europe way more if it's true. I mean, it definitely makes sense because I think with the admixtures and all, the easy to consume ancestry information that they're trying to constantly sell more than anything, it makes sense that they put so much into making it more and more granular as they go along. Honestly, I think that's one of the few things that really gets a lot of people going and testing with living DNA is because of how granular they have, England and Scotland and Ireland and Northwestern Europe and Africa. Like Africa's got a huge, getting a message. But Africa's got like a huge covering when it comes to their breakdown of admixture versus all the other companies. But just not genealogically useful. So, all right. Yeah, very, very interesting though, for sure. I'll have to ask some of my some of my genealogy colleagues what they might know about some of this. Although I feel like a lot of us kind of don't even worry that much about some of this stuff because it's just basically the most of us that have to worry about this kind of stuff are the ones that make content, because in all honesty that's the content that gets the most draws. I talk about DNA matches, people leave. I start talking about DNA percentages, views go up. So it's definitely what more people want than the in-depth stuff, and especially if they're trying to buy it and learn their own ancestry. Yeah, didn't they say they're releasing DNA clusters at Roots Tech too? Yes, they did announce that they're releasing DNA clusters. In fact, I think they were doing it without the help of EJ Bloom, who kind of he's the one that invented auto clustering, basically. He's the one that runs genetic affairs. I'm trying to see if I can find a thing for it, like an article or something, because they announced it at Roots Tech. But one of the things that I've noticed Ancestry does is and I think the other companies too, like MyHeritage, is they do a lot of announcements at Roots Tech and some of the other conferences where they don't make public posts about it necessarily, because they don't want to fully go into it yet, but they want to kind of get it hyped up. Probably not too dissimilar to how sometimes in live streams I try to talk about some of the upcoming videos as like a way of getting the core audience kind of hyped up. But I don't want to talk about it too much and making posts and all that stuff about it. So that's probably part of it until they know they're ready. But yeah. NTL, Ancestry has Sephardic Jewish, MyHeritage doesn't, which is ridiculous. Yeah, with the update, MyHeritage basically took it out, and then they broke it down into a whole bunch of other stuff. And I don't know exactly what they were thinking with that. If we had a white paper, that'd be great to know. But Ancestry does now have Sephardic Jewish, something that they just rolled out. And I have to go back and look, but I think with all of my family's admixtures, like all of the cousins I have that are from my Sephardic side, the percentages we were getting for the Sephardic were pretty similar to what we were seeing with the other companies, where sometimes it was showing up decently, other times it was obvious that whatever the Sephardic ancestry was getting lumped in either the Ashkenazi or other stuff. But yeah, I mean, we're just going to constantly see that's going to be a huge part of their business model moving forward, is updating those admixtures, getting more and more granular as they go along. And I mean, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if 10 years from now, they'll have breakdowns of, not just Sephardic, but they'll have Western Sephardic, Eastern Sephardic, North African Sephardic. And then within those, you'll have the Western Sephardic, but then you'll have the North American Western Sephardic, and then the European Western Sephardic. And, it's there's so many granularities as you get further and further into it. And then even within that, you go to the North American Sephardi communities, and then you've got Jamaica, Curacao, Suriname, you've got St. Thomas, you have, I think there was a community in Cuba, you've got Rhode Island, you've got New York, you've got Charleston, you've got Savannah. There's all these communities throughout North America that are all tied to the Western Sephardi community. And all of those are tied to the communities in Europe that are from Hamburg and London and Amsterdam and Livorno. There's, but they're all part of the Western Sephardi group. So could they find a way of actually deciphering it down to a point of North American Western Sephardi versus European Sephardi? Or, it's just but I think that's kind of not necessarily just what they're going to focus on is Sephardi, but they're going to do that with every population group that you can think of. I mean, every population group, you're going to have more granular populations within that group, and more granular and more granular. So yeah, very, very interesting to see where we're at now, especially compared to 10 years ago. I remember 10 years ago, the readings of everything was just so so all over the, like, I remember when I first was doing DNA testing, which I first tested in 2013, the common thing that I heard was 5% or below was the trace result. So you could get a 5% reading and you'd still be like, okay, we need to hold on a second. Let's make sure this is right here. So yeah. But yeah, the Ancestry should hopefully get that even better as they go along. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I was just about to ask this question about auto cluster on Super Chat. Okay, yeah, the auto cluster, for those who don't know, is basically a way of taking a bunch of your DNA matches and then putting them into groups, clusters, that each group, the presumption is that they all have a shared ancestor with each other and you. And so if you research all of the family trees of everyone in that cluster and build a perfect family tree for everyone, 400 years into the past, you should find somewhere common ancestors that every single one of you in the cluster descend from. It doesn't always work out that way. You get a lot of little outliers in clusters and stuff too. So that's something being advanced as well. But so far, auto clustering is only available on a few sites. At first, it was only available on Genetic Affairs, which is E.J. Blum's site. And it is still, Genetic Affairs is the only way to do auto clustering if you want to do auto clustering through Family Tree DNA or 23andMe. And then I can't remember if they had others, but there's also a lot of other stuff beyond auto clustering as well. But then MyHeritage did a deal with EJ. So MyHeritage acquired auto clustering on their website. And then also GEDmatch, aka Verigen, did something as well where they brought it onto their site. And then also did, they have an exclusive, the endogamy auto cluster, which was something that I actually did consulting for. So I talked with BJ a lot about the research and things I'd done in endogamous researching and what I thought could be applied to the auto cluster to then make it so people with endogamy could successfully use it. So that's available on GEDmatch. So the places you couldn't do auto clustering was basically just Ancestry. 23andMe. I'm pretty sure, maybe I'm wrong with 23andMe, unless things have changed as well. Actually, I wonder, am I? Yeah, look at that. I was like, I'm pretty sure I was one of the ones that did a little review. But I just want to see if it, because I'm pretty sure it's 23andMe and, okay, yeah, here. So FTDNA, 23andMe. Oh, okay. So, automated retrieval not supported. Okay. Oh, so 23andMe not. Okay, so it's just FTDNA now. But he does have. So you can do stuff across them, but it's just not quite the same, unfortunately. But now with Ancestry rolling out their own thing, which is, they did, I don't know, as far as I know, I don't think they consulted with EJ at all. So I'm sure there we go. Evert Jan Blom. Een andere Nederlander. Is that good? Another Dutch genealogy enthusiast. But yeah, so I don't know how Ancestries will be. In all honesty, since they haven't rolled it out yet, and I'm pretty sure they announced it a while back. Like, I think it wasn't this. No, actually, it was this Roots Tech. So it's still a few months. But I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up reaching out to him or something after, because I'm sure it's not easy doing that, figuring that stuff out. Okay. Yeah, in some of the leaks, you can see Ancestry is splitting Jewish regions. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, one of the regions, Dutch Jews, I would think would be a region that would be somewhat possible to not necessarily isolate admixture wise, but in terms of the overall genetic groups or regions, which basically this is what that is, if I understand correctly, then I think they could decipher that somewhat. Because a lot of the Jews that arrived in the Netherlands came in the 1500s, 1600s, and 1700s. Obviously, still a lot of Jews coming throughout after, but the large majority of the Sephardic Jews that arrive in the late 1500s and throughout the 1600s. And then the majority of the Ashkenazi Jews who arrive in the late 1600s and then throughout the 1700s. I will say with the Sephardic Jews, late 1500s might be not an over-exaggeration. I mean, they were like the last few years, like the first documentation of a Sephardic Jew in Amsterdam. Granted, we knew they were there before that, and I think maybe they've identified newer or older records of Jews there. But basically, it was a marriage bond between two Jews in 1596, 1597, and actually, I connect to them. the first record. It was Maria Nunez and Duarte Sariava, I think. I can't remember. I talk about it in one of my videos, actually. So, okay, I need to get to this. Julia Joyce, thank you again. Another donation, £4.99. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for the support. And thanks, Chair, for all your help. It really helped me. I can't wait for Friday evenings in your live video. And that's awesome to hear. Thank you so much for being part of this community and helping support it. I mean, it really does make a huge difference for me to be able to continue doing this stuff with donations. All right, let's see. Okay, there we go. I was like, why can't I find it? It was right there. Next lifetime, OMG, LOL. My dad first did 23andMe in like 2018, 2019, and got trace Ashkenazi and even Native American, which was super unlikely. Haven't seen it since. Yeah, and that's what's going to happen is you're going to get those trace results of stuff. They're going to improve the results, and then slowly some of that's going to go away. For others, though, some of those 2% and 1% and point whatever percents may be true and may actually be coming from that ancestry. So, yeah, but for a lot of people, yeah, you're just going to see it go as they get better and better. Okay, if I have 5.5 or if I have 5.15% North African ancestry, is that more of a trace result if I tested with my heritage like my middle sister did? Not really. I mean, nowadays trace results really are 1% or lower, sometimes maybe 2% or lower, but the companies have gotten fairly good with it so that usually trace results aren't as high as 5%. Now, that's not always the case depending on population groups. So, like, someone who's coming from a Spanish ancestry or maybe even an Italian ancestry, especially like Sicilian or Southern Italy, having North African ancestry could be part of the population genetics, just in the sense that there was a lot of genetic flow from North Africa to those areas on the southern border of Europe, especially Spain and especially Italy and Sicily and all that, where it was very easy to go by boat back and forth. So that's something to consider, with a name like Jose Lopez, guessing Iberian ancestry. So that could be part of that population genetics. And I don't know if we necessarily call those trace results as much, because a trace result really, I think of that as more of, we have very low confidence of whether or not this is true. Whereas with the 5% North African within the population genetics idea of it, it's like, it's not necessarily, that it might not necessarily be true as much as it is that it would be more representative of much more distant ancestry than we would typically think of with a 5% reading. So, you think 5% reading, usually you're going to think about a second great grandparent. But in the case of a population genetics, instead of thinking a second great grandparent, your most recent North African ancestor might have lived around I don't know, 500 years ago or something like that, 600 years ago. So, you technically, if you only had one North African ancestor at that time, you probably wouldn't inherit any DNA from them. But you look back 500, 600 years ago, well, you're going to have, hundreds of thousands of ancestors alive at that time. And it's, and you have 5% of those hundreds of thousands of ancestors that might have been North African. It's just, or yeah, it could have been that, or the other way around is that basically the population genetics of that this percentage isn't necessarily actually North African, but instead it's representative of the flow of DNA from Iberia or Italy or whatever into North Africa. And then when they do the genetic studies to try to decipher that, they define those DNA sequences as North African, when if you really got it perfect, they actually originated in Iberia or something. So yeah, so it's that's the difficulty. There's so many possibilities with it. But yeah, I did see that follow up. So like the Berbers, kind of, yeah. I mean, it could have involved the Berbers. I don't, it'll, yeah, I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully what I said made sense. Yeah, Anthony Monroe, I think you. I don't know why I can't talk right now. I think you previously could on 23andMe, but no longer because of their changes. Yeah, so I think you're talking about for the auto clustering, and I believe you are correct. That's why I wanted to go to the site to double check, because they stopped a lot of things after that. Everyone calls it a hack, and it's easy to call it a hack, but a credential stuffing attack, really. But after that, they really took a lot of stuff down. Some of it they put back up, but a lot of it's not there anymore. Like the chromosome browser. I don't think that's back on 23andMe. It's back on MyHeritage though. And EJ is my fifth cousin. Very cool. Very cool. And it makes sense, Yeah, Jullie Nederlanders. Okay. Yeah, Julia, P.S. My mom has about 7 cents Morgans on GEDmatch with your father. It must be way back. I was told I had Jewish ancestry. Yeah, that's certainly possible. That's certainly possible. I will say for my dad's lines, that has my most recent brick walls are largely on my dad's side. So like my great grandmother on my dad's side is my most recent brick wall. So there's always the possibility I could have European ancestry back there. Not, I could have a second or third or fourth or fifth great grandparent on that line, but also like there's other lines where recently I've had some big breakthroughs, but some of them end pretty early, so I have a lot of, fourth and fifth and sixth great grandparents on my dad's side that I really know nothing about. Kind of same on my mom's side too, but not quite as intense. Yeah, Albuquerque Bobcat. I find that Ancestry DNA is very accurate for me. About 51% Spanish, about 23% Native American, other European, and trace Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jewish at 2% each. Very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, so I mean, with that, New Mexican ancestry, I guess there is always that question of a B'nai Newsome connection. I don't know a lot about the B'nai Newsome necessarily. I haven't dove into that research a lot. There's a lot of contention behind that research of how many were there truly, and how, is it overblown, or is it, true that it was tons of families, or was it just a handful and, was seemingly more. So for those who don't know what I'm talking about, B'nai Newsome are a group of people, a population in a sense of people who are descendants of Jews who were forced to convert in the Inquisitions. Forced to convert is not necessarily the proper way to talk about the Spanish Inquisition, because they technically had time to leave. But basically, they converted because of the Inquisition, ended up in the New World. But even though they were there in the New World, where it was much harsher for people pretending to be Jewish, they still, or not pretending to be Jewish, pretending to be Catholic and secretly being Jewish, but they still stayed secretly Jewish. So that is something that a lot of people have said. There's a ton of them in New Mexico. Others have said there were some, but it was very few. And then there's a lot of people in between. So I think I've talked about this a few other times, and a few times on a few streams as well. But yeah. Yeah, Blake, I know you've been talking a lot about your relations. I wonder if I'm related to any other famous people. I mean, all of us are. One of the things I've done with my YouTuber family tree series is every time I build one of their family trees, I get it up on genie.com and I do a bunch of different searches to see, first of all, how are all of them, how are all of my YouTuber family tree guests related to each other? But then on top of that, there's different ways for Genie users to do searches for like a large amount of people. So like there's this tool called Path to User, where basically you put in a person's Genie profile number, and then you choose a Genie project that has a lot of different profiles in it, and say, how is this person related to all of the profiles connected to this project? So like you could, there's a US presidents and vice presidents project. So you can compare your DNA to that, and through the Path to User, is that what it's called? Is it Path to User? Yeah, Genie Path to User tool. Here, I just want to, I'm going to get into it. I just want to make sure it doesn't show anything. Don't want shown. Oh, it doesn't work. Oh, wow. I'm going to have to find out if it's, hopefully they didn't take it down. Path to User tool. Huh. I will admit I haven't used it in a while, so that could be it, is that I just... Yeah, interesting. I guess the tool doesn't work anymore, unless they've made an updated one and I don't know it. I'll have to look into that, but hopefully it's a tool that if it wasn't if it's not available now, hopefully they get it back up. Message the guy that makes it, but it's a really cool tool just because you can see instantly, like, are you related to all the US presidents, or how are you related to them, instead of having to go one profile at a time. Yeah, I have matched both of one with your parents. Okay, yeah. Next lifetime, do you have any strong hypotheses for your great grandmother's parents but aren't confident enough in it, or none at all? Honestly, we're not even 100% sure about her surname. I've heard, I think through my family, like when I first got into genealogy and I was like talking to a bunch of my cousins on my dad's side, especially the older generation asking about it, I heard basically kind of like three various names. I remember hearing Greenberg, Baruch, and then I think Greenstein or something like. I think it was another Green, something like that. Then I had heard one of my cousins had told me about that they'd remember something about some other cousins where it was like a brother of my great grandmother that lived in Philadelphia. But then I later found out that that we had cousins through a brother of my great grandfather in Philadelphia. And so I've kind of wondered too, were they actually thinking about my great grandfather's side, not my great grandmother's? So maybe she had a brother, but then beyond that, we don't know who her father's name is. She died in 1920 something. And trying to remember what the deal was with trying to, like, there was an issue with her gravestone, I think, in trying to find it, or I couldn't remember. I can't remember exactly. I'm pulling it up right now. But like I remember that was one of the issues, was something with her gravestone where, usually for Jewish burials, if you get the grave, you get the father's name, and that's right. Yeah, I think it was. So this is the gravestone. Oh yeah, I have to. How do I do this? Oh yeah, view original. Well, I guess this is kind of, we can show this. So this is her death record, and this says not given, not given. So we have the death information. And there's her burial, but then trying to read it is very difficult. Like I think it's like here, Frida, Bot, Reb, and then the father's name's there. So that, zooming in actually makes it harder. So could be Yehuda. I think that was one of the guesses. Yeah, actually, it's funny. Now that I think about it, I can't remember the last time I reviewed all this stuff. So yeah. Okay. Let's see, where am I? There we go. V, any tips for brick walls? Checked all cousins' trees, all share the same mistake. Also can't find any birth certificate 1750s. Well, I mean, that's the thing. When it comes to tips for brick walls, it comes down to the population or where they're coming from. But if there really is anything about brick walls, one of the number one things that you can do is fan research, friends, associates, and neighbors. Start looking into all of the things that you see tied to them. So if you find a record where maybe they're doing business with some guy, well, find out about who was that guy, what was his life like, and maybe there's something in there that it mentions the person you're looking for, or just looking at who's living next to them, what are their stories, what do people know about them, that sort of thing. So fan research was how a lot of the stuff for the Pope was found through the genealogy Discord. Like that was one of the things they focused a lot on, was fan research, which actually I think I did just recently find out they do like a thing on Fridays. I think they're doing it right now called Fan Fridays or something. So don't know exactly how it works, but I'm guessing it's like a WikiTree challenge type of thing. They're all working together on something. But Linda Addy, hi Jarrett. Linda from Panama here, just saying hello. Well, good to see you, Lindy. Thank you for Linda. Sorry, combined your names there. It's good to see you, Linda. Thank you for joining. It's great talking with you last week. Hopefully everything's going well for you and your sister. John Tyner, you can do that on WikiTree too with categories. Okay, cool. Yeah, next lifetime, do you have helpful DNA matches for? I have a few that I've identified, but they're not super, super close. I've been talking to some other cousins from my dad's side to try to get them to DNA test. Over the years, I've slowly had a few more kind of come out of the woodwork and do DNA testing. But it's been a little bit difficult. One thing I was thinking about possibly doing is that, my dad's DNA tested, one of his sister's DNA tested, and I'm, if I can get his other sister DNA test, I could probably do visual phasing, although I don't know. That's not something I really want to ask at this point, stuff going on with the family and her health. So don't want to kind of throw any wrenches into that sort of thing by being like, she wanted DNA test. But even with my dad and my aunt, the aunt that's already tested with their DNA, and some of the other cousins that we have tested, I'm thinking that, I'm thinking that I might be able to do visual phasing. So yeah. It did actually just occur to me because one of the people that just talked on here, I'm not going to mention them by name. If they want to say it was them, they can. But one of the people on here, I did a consultation with, and probably a good time to mention that anyone that wants to do consultations. So if you're looking for, really in-depth help from me, where I sit down on a Zoom call with you and go through your research with you and your DNA matches, or whatever questions you have. I do those. Just shoot me an email and we can get those scheduled. So yeah, something to mention. Blake is here. Name a funny example of a famous person you're related to. Well, I guess, what does it mean by a funny example? Because I'll tell you a really funny example, because I have a lot of famous cousins on a lot of sides for myself. So just talking about this side, my dad's side, Frida Goldberg. Well, Frida had a daughter named Betty, and Betty had a daughter named Jill. And Jill is a famous actress. I've mentioned her before, Jill St. John. Anyone that's seen Diamonds Are Forever, James Bond, she was the Bond girl in Diamonds Are Forever, famous redhead. So it makes sense, the ginger running through. So that's my dad's side. On my mom's side, I descend from the Mills Music Publishing family. My great-grandfather, Jack Ekoff, was the general sales manager for the company. His obituary was on the front page of Billboard magazine in 1963. So that should tell you how important he was in the music industry. And in the Mills Music family, one of my cousins is Martin Mills, one of the sons of the famous Mills brothers. And Martin Mills went on to become a famous photographer. And well, who was one of those famous people that he did photography for? My other cousin, Jill St. John. So I have photographs of my dad's cousin, Jill St. John, taken by my mom's cousin, Martin Mills. So I would say that's a funny example of two famous people I'm related to connecting to each other. But I honestly have a lot of famous connections within my recent family history. A lot of that largely having to do with my, on my dad's side, I like to say it's kind of like a Hollywood family, a lot of family working in the entertainment industry, but very specifically kind of film and TV and stuff like that. And then on my mom's side, I have a lot of people in the entertainment industry as well, but much more on the music side and the theater side of things. But a lot of movie stuff. So like on my mom's side, my second great grandmother, Jane Moscow, had a brother, Sam Moscow, who was the head of the Southeastern Division of Columbia Pictures in the early 1900s. He got my great-grandfather Morris into that industry. And then my great-grandfather Morris ended up going on to make movies, which you can find them on YouTube. Let's pull up one of my great-grandfather's movies. Actually, I'll pull up the one that my grandmother claims she is the actual writer for. But because of the times, female writer could not be. So this video right here, the case of the babysitter and the Hatbox Mystery. These are movies that my great grandfather Morris Nunes. This is what he did. So make sure. So the case. So he went out in the 1940s, did these movies. Unfortunately, while he was out there in California doing these movies, he had a heart attack and died. My grandfather was actually out there doing the movies with him, along with other cousins. So I have some like I have cousins in these movies. Like my great grandfather's brother is in the movie, and like others are in the movie briefly. And Myron A. Nunes, that's my great grandfather. Or no, actually, that's my grandfather. Myron Nunes is my grandfather. Maury Nunes is my great grandfather. Although his like official name was Morris, but he went by Maury. So RCA Pictures, but he went on, or not he went on, but before he went out to California to work in the film industry. So executive producer Maury Nunes, that's my great grandfather. He went on to the music, or not before he went out for the movie industry. He was the owner of a lot of theaters throughout New Haven, Connecticut. Most famously, the Schubert Theater. So if anyone's ever been to Connecticut, especially New Haven, you probably have heard of the Shipper Theater. But one of the other famous theaters he was an owner of was the Whaley Theater. But he owned a lot of theaters, and because of that, I had a lot of family working in the theaters. I remember one of the things that was said was that at my great grandfather's funeral, Morris Hughes' funeral, one of the like it was just a slew of all these prominent actors and actresses, and one of my cousins that I talked to that was around for that said that the one that stood out that he remembered was Mary Astor was there. So Mary Astor, very famous actress of the time. So yeah, lots and lots of connections that I have in the entertainment. So I think Hatbot Mixer. I think this is the one where my great grandfather's brother is in it. He's like eating burgers at a counter. Look who it is! Let's see. Where's the count? Okay, here we go. So this scene coming up, it's my great grandfather. That guy walking in right there. That's Bob Noons. That's Bob Noons right there. That's my great grandfather's brother. Get himself 2 burgers. I'll have 2. I'll have 2. Let's see that. Let's see that again. Look at that acting. Yeah, it's all in the family. Robert Abraham Nunes. Actually, Robert Abraham Nunes Voss. Second great uncle. There he is. Yeah, this photo right here is from my grandparents' wedding. Whoa. Okay, so that's my great aunt Jane. That's my great grandparents right there. So that's Jenny, and that's Morris. That's my grandparents. They just got married. That is my great grandparents, Jack Ecoff and Mary Casino. And Jack is the one whose obituary was on the front page of Billboard magazine. So he's the general sales manager at Mills Music Publishing. And then here's Bob. Here's great Uncle Bob. Let's go back, watch that. Yeah. So so cool, so cool. Yeah, very close, very close. Um, have you ever considered working in the film industry also? Well, I mean, this isn't exactly it. But yes, yes, I have. And in fact, technically, I did work in the film industry a little bit. Um, when I was in high school, I was a part. I mean, I guess that's not as much the film industry, really, but TV or whatever. But when I was in high school and middle school, I did programs for my local Fox affiliate, WREL. So I did a program called Post 5, which was a program where it was kind of 2 things. It was like we were making TV programs ourselves. Sometimes we'd make our own news program, but sometimes we'd do like other programs. Like I remember like a lot of those like public access stupid sort of things. Not much going into it. But one of the things I did in that program too was a show on what was called WREL called Central Express. Yeah, there's a web page for it. So Central Express. So I was an extra in this show, like only for a couple, not many. So it's like a local TV show in North Carolina. I think this is the one. I think you can see me walking down the hall at some point. Because this is the one where it's like it's a very sad one. It's like this girl gets bullied and she like, yeah, not good. But I'm trying to find. There's a scene. I think this is the one. What am I doing? Oh yeah, this is after she. But yeah, so I did this stuff. Then when I was in Pittsburgh for a while, I did a couple of auditions for acting. Um, and then on top of doing a couple of acting auditions, um, I also actually had a talent agent. So I was part of what was known as the Nancy Moster Talent Agency. And I had actually, I that was probably if I ever had a chance to truly actually get into that side of the film industry, that was my chance that I didn't take. Because Nancy Moster Casting Agency did a lot of casting for some of the big comedy films shot at the time in Pittsburgh in the late 2000s, or yeah, the late aughts, which is when I was in school there. And while I was there, one of the movies that they actually got me cast for, if I remember correctly, I was supposed to be like some angry kid at a carnival or whatever. But it was that movie with Jesse Eisenberg. What was it Jesse Eisenberg? Um, it's like he and that chick from the werewolf vampire movies. That one where they're together, I think, and they do Adventureland. That's what it was. So 2009, yeah. So I got a role in Adventureland through the Nancy Monster Talent Agency. It's basically like an extra, but it was like an extra with like action to it or something. So it's like, a bit more. And they had me booked for that. And then I ended up having an exam that day. And like when you do shoots, like the shoot, if I remember correctly, was like I was supposed to get on set at like 6 p.m. And then the shoot lasts for like 16 hours or something like that. I mean, it's a long time. It's a long, long time. But it basically it like started late in one day, but went all the way into the next day. And it was like you cannot get off set. Like you have to be on set the entire time. You have to be waiting there. And I don't remember if I tried to get my exam moved or whatever, because it was funny enough for a communications class where my professor, Professor Brett something, I can't remember his name exactly, but my professor, he did movie stuff too. But I can't remember if I was like, hey, I'm trying to do this. And, they said no or what, but I ended up having to cancel that spot. And basically, I think when I called them up to say like, hey, I got to cancel it, I think they basically were like, look, if you cancel this, like you're basically just putting yourself on a list of like, you're going to be on the end of the list. Like you're going to be on the end of the list. It's like, well, college, and I think about that sometimes because it's like, you hear about these stories of actors and actresses and stuff making it big. And like their first role was, I skipped this or I dropped out of this or did that. And then, and like I think about it, and it's like, geez, I wonder, what could have happened if I'd gone on to that, done that role, and would I have befriended some of those people and me, who knows. But yeah, I wonder if Monster Talent Agency is still around. Yeah, still around. Look at that. So they did a lot of stuff because I remember one of the things I reached out to them for because I'd found out they were shooting, and then I think they were like, we'll consider you, and then I don't think I ever heard back. Was they were shooting? She's out of my league. But I know they were the ones that did they're the ones that did Dogma. Yeah. Oh yeah, Sorority Row. I remember that one. That one was shot on my campus at University of Pittsburgh. Yeah, Adventureland. And then I could have sworn she's out of my league. Because I remember getting something that told me about the actual movie, and I was like, oh, I want to be in this somehow. I want to be in this. Let's see. There we go. Okay. That's right. Missed it. So yeah. I mean, I literally thought about it, but my main thing always was music. So actually, before I ever went to college, um, when I was in high school, I had started my own booking agency. So I was booking concerts around North Carolina and Raleigh. And that was always my main thing, was like doing music. And that's what I wanted to get into. Like, one of the things I always said growing up was like, well, if I don't get into, if I don't become a famous musician myself in a band, which was kind of always my dream, then at the very least, I want to get into like music booking or tours and stuff like that, which I did for many years. I always focused more on trying to become a famous musician myself. But then obviously, eventually, genealogy kind of took over. And funny enough, the main story that I might have talked about before, but not a ton here and there, is that I got into genealogy professionally, partially because the band that I had been in at that time broke up. Our drummer and our guitarist basically got into a fight on stage. No, like not a physical fist fight necessarily, but it came close. And we had to cancel a tour we had planned. And it just so happened that the week that the tour was planned was the week that NGS, the National Genealogical Society Conference, was in Raleigh. And so I ended up going to that because I've loved genealogy for years. I think a lot of you probably are in positions like I was, where it was like, I have all these other things I want to do that I want to focus on. But I have the image of my Uncle Bob up there. But it's just like genealogy is just a fun hobby thing for me. But I always had people like, you should become a professional. And I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go take classes. I don't want to have to get certified. I don't, I'm not a good student. I don't like dealing with school. I love to learn, but I hate school. So I didn't want to do that. But it was that NGS conference, talking to different people there, especially people, the Ancestry Pro Genealogists booth. And that was when I was like, you know what? Let me do it. I'll do it. I like this stuff. Yeah, Mary Astor's from your hometown. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Josh Danao? Interesting. Josh, would you be able to recommend me a genealogist from Mexico? I have ancestors from Guadalajara and Mexico City in the 1700s. I honestly don't know any specific Mexican genealogists. But the thing that I always suggest for stuff like this is using AP Gen's directory, or there's other directories you can use too. The Board of Certified Genealogists, BCG, has a directory, and I think some of the other certification bodies have directories of genealogists that they have. But you just go in here, I'd like a genealogist based in Mexico, and we'll just do a search, and you can get even more specific. So looks like you have 5 listings. Granted, there's only 3 people that are actually listed in Mexico. This person's Alabama, this person's Texas, but they specialize in Hispanic research. But you can also, depending on what you need, I'd like a genealogist who researches. And so based in, meaning that they live there. Granted, some people will put stuff there that they don't live there. And then there's people who research. So people that don't live there, but have the expertise to deal with the records that are online. So depending on what you need, if you're just starting to get into things, you might need someone that, doesn't need to be on the ground. For stuff dealing with stuff in the 1700s, you might. Because the main thing is what records are available. And for a lot of places, while there's a lot of stuff online, there's a ton of stuff that's not. And you may need someone who's literally on the ground and able to easily go into whatever archive, as well as have the knowledge to know which archive to go to if you don't know which one. And yeah, Danao. Okay, it's Danao. Okay, cool. Yeah. I always feel bad sometimes when I try to pronounce people's names, and like I don't want to skip the names sometimes, but at the same time, it's like I don't want to offend people. So, you know, Dogma is one of my favorite films. It's so funny. I love Dogma. It used to be on YouTube for a long, long time. They took it down, and I tried to watch it again recently on YouTube, and I think there's a version of it on there, but it's like not a good quality version. I don't remember what's wrong with it, but something was wrong with that version. But yeah, it's one of my favorite movies too. And I remember hearing Kevin Smith talk about that he wanted to do sequels to Dogma, but that there was issues with it, and a big part of it was that the guy who owns it is what's his name, who's in jail, Weinstein, I think it is, Harvey Weinstein. He owns it, so it's like, yeah, I don't know what the deal is with it, but yeah, great movie, very funny movie. Burke Sulik, I wonder if this kind of interest, I wouldn't like to call it talent, runs through family. I've learned that my great uncle was a teacher at the Ottoman Palace. Now I'm completing my PhD. Where can we listen to your music? Yeah. Well, yeah, I definitely agree. I think it runs through family, because I find that like a lot of my family lines all have this same stuff. So like on the Hollywood line of my family, that Goldberg family, like I talked about my cousin Jill, but within my more immediate family, so like, you know, all of my grandfather's siblings, a lot of their kids and even them did stuff in the entertainment industry. And to this day, I have cousins who are working in Hollywood, or, you know, doing various stuff in Hollywood. So like one of my cousins owns a ranch out in Nevada. If I ever pronounce it around Joe or Cynical Historian, he's always like, no, it's wrong. And I'm always like, I never know how to say it. I always think, no, it's this way. And I say it, and he's like, no, you're wrong. Like she owns a ranch out there, and that they go and shoot movies at, and you know, they run all these, she's done all these things like reporting on acting stuff and all of that. And tons of other cousins that are, you know, extras and have worked in the industry in various ways. But then when I started to find a lot of my cousins that were descendants, not of my grandfather's siblings, but of my great-grandfather's siblings that we never knew about before I did genealogy and DNA testing. And then all of a sudden I started finding a ton of them in the industry too. And it was just like, yeah, I mean, that's gotta be it. As for where you can listen to my music, my band was called The Water Between. I've posted stuff before about us. So my old band. Yeah, I found this old acoustic video of me, like it was like basically I would write songs, send it to the band, and like this is one of those videos that I wrote that was like, okay, here's a new song that we should learn that I wrote. But here I'm gonna share it in a way so that I think you all can hear it. So, oh, funny enough, actually, this is perfect to bring both together. So this video here was a video that one of my cousins made for me. This is the cousin that is on my dad's side that works in the industry. Music I try so hard, it's sick. Can't figure out what I'm missing. It's you, brain, and everything.
Hi everybody, I am Jarrett Ross. I am the lead singer and guitarist for The Water Between. We are an alternative.
Okay, I have to go back for a second. I have to go back for a second.
Guitarist for The
So you see this guy right here singing? So that guy is actually, I don't know if I'd say he's like huge on Twitch, but he's a Twitch streamer. What's he go by now? The Mick. So if anyone does like that GTA roleplay stuff, like if you're into that, he's known as the Mick. And like he had a famous character that went viral for a bit, Gladys Berry. So if anyone's into that whole world, I'm trying to remember what server they're on, but like that's that guy. That's the Mick.
Water Between. We are an alternative rock band based out of Raleigh, North Carolina.
I hope I see
We're a
someone say
four-piece
something in the
band.
chat that's
We
like,
have
oh, I
Aaron
know that
Kiley,
guy.
who's
I
our
know
lead
that channel.
guitarist, Eduardo Fuentes, who is our bassist, and Kenny Adams, who is our drummer. We are just actually about to release our new EP, which is called
I have
Grass
so
on
many
the
of those
Field.
CDs
That's
lying
going to be
around
released
still.
on
I found
October
them
18th,
stacked
which
them
for all of
the
you
other
folks
day.
out in North Carolina, come on out to Jack Piner Pub in Cary, North Carolina, where we're going to have our official release show. We have been working in the studio with Mike Shawns, who is from the Arcade Studio based out of Raleigh.
One of my mom's friends got kicked out of that show. I completely forgot about that.
It's been a wonderful experience working with him. We're
I don't know
really
if my mom's
excited to be
watching right now,
releasing
but
this
she's
album.
laughing.
Then following the release of the album, we're actually going to be going on tour around the East Coast for 14 days, starting out in Chapel Hill, North Carolina on October 29th. And then we're going to be going into Fairfax, Virginia,
Jack
Hanover,
Piner.
Pennsylvania,
P
Pittsburgh,
is in
Pennsylvania,
Paul, I is in
Akron,
Igloo,
Ohio,
N is in
Chicago,
Nancy.
Illinois,
Yeah, like Piner.
Indianapolis, Indiana.
So I can
Then
see
we're
where
gonna
you
be going
thought
down
that, though.
to Nashville, Tennessee, then Atlanta, Georgia, and back up to South Carolina, and then we're going to be back home. So
hopefully it's loud enough you all can hear
those areas. Be sure to come and catch us, see our live show. We will be releasing on iTunes and Spotify and Rhapsody and all of that stuff sometime later this year after our release. But that information will be posted
9
once
years
we
ago.
know for sure. We have a couple of websites that you can go to. We have our Facebook.
It's almost
which
10
is
years ago.
facebook.com/thewaterbetween. We also have a Twitter, which is twitter.com/thewaterbetween. We also
Nobody's
have
like this video.
Reverb Nation, which is reverbnation.com/thewaterbetween.
Give it a like.
You can also
give this,
search for us
give
on
this stream
YouTube,
a like too.
which we have a couple of live videos from our previous shows throughout the country, including shows from.
Yeah, we played around a lot. Which one should I play? Oh yeah, let's do La Bamba. You guys can hear me sing in Spanish. This was in Georgia. Yo no soy marinero. Yo no soy marinero. What's up, puppy? My dogs are like, what are you doing? You're singing. What's up, little dog boy? What's up? Oh wow, I've almost been going 2 hours. I'll just keep that on in the background. So yeah, if you want to check out more of my old band's music, I will say some of it may surprise some people because some of the songs are talking about, intense party stuff, or it's trying to be artsy too. So you'll hear some kind of depressing sounding songs. You're like, geez, hope you're okay, dude. Like I remember there's one song of mine that I played with my band, and then we did a recording of it, and that was like the first time they really heard the full-on lyrics. And one of my bandmates like pulled me aside, and they're like, dude, I didn't realize these were the lyrics. Like, are you okay? It's like, yeah, just kind of artsy, getting feelings out, emotional stuff, all that. Yeah. All right. And thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, two cute little dogs. The other one, Jack, down here. He comes up on stream every once in a while too. They're actually full brothers. I did a whole video about that. So if you've never seen my video about DNA testing my dogs, check that out. They were both rescues on the side of the road, so we weren't sure if they were brothers, but we're pretty sure because they do not look alike, but they act alike. So you see the video, you'll get it. Yeah. So wish I had musical talent. I know for a fact it is in my genes. It is in my genes. Yeah. A couple of my cousins, interesting fact, only brothers to open and close a winning game in pro baseball. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. So, all right. Well, I think with that, appreciate the emojis. I just noticed that. I think with that, I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. I don't know if I've done one hitting close to 2 hours in a while. But this was a lot of fun today. Obviously, very kind of laissez-faire. Started late, barely even realized it was Friday until like too late. But yeah, thank you to everyone watching. Once again, if you want to do consultations, hire me to help you out. Just shoot me an email. I also am, hoping to get some more videos out and all of that coming out soon. But if you aren't watching my reactions channel, because I know I still hear from people who are like, you have a reaction channel? Go check that out. Obviously, continuing only doing lives here. And then, I don't know, beyond that, like, subscribe, anything you all can do to help me out. I greatly appreciate it. The audience is, you guys are the ones that help me more than anything. So thank you all again, and you all have a wonderful weekend. I'm Jarrett Ross, the Genie Vlogger, and I'm out. I'll see y'all.